rejoice and be glad in it. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome everybody on this Wednesday. This is Director Ivy coming to you live with reliable aid as our topic today will be about healthy boundaries for the clients in the LTSS Medicaid program. Catch this quick commercial and I'll be right back. Yes, I'm back. And if you guys catch the commercial, we talk about we are a safe solution for seniors. And yes, we are. But in addition to that, doesn't even have to be a senior. We are a safe solution for everyone. Clients, caregivers, seniors, 20, 30, 40, 50 year, it doesn't matter the age. It doesn't matter the diagnosis. If you're on the LTSS program, the long term care Medicaid program, we are a safe solution for you. Okay. So today, we are going to talk about healthy boundaries for the clients in the LTSS Medicaid program. Yesterday, we touched on the caregivers because we all know it is a huge job being a caregiver. But guess what? Being a client, it can pose challenges as well. We know that, yeah, the clients are getting all of this great care from our great caregivers. If you're on our service, if you ain't, I don't know. I'm going to make a suggestion to you. But the clients are getting this great care, but they too have challenges. So we want to talk today about healthy boundaries, for the clients in the long-term care Medicaid program. So hashtag live, hashtag rebroadcast. Again, I am Director Ivy coming to you live today. I'm looking forward to answering you guys' questions, seeing y'all pop up. Let me know where you're calling in or texting in or chatting from. You can always, give us a call, not while I'm doing the live. But our number is 302-689-3240. So let's jump right into this. So being a client on the LTSS program, one of the biggest things that I know I've learned, that has posed the challenge is acceptance. Acceptance is a huge word, okay? Because acceptance means you're taking ownership and accountability that you have a diagnosis, that first off qualifies you to be on the LTSS program. But in addition, yeah, it means that you need some more help. And, we let our pride get in the way. We let our personal thoughts and feelings, get in the way. Sometimes our mental health, gets in the way. So the biggest thing that I found in talking to people, and I've been in healthcare about 25 years now. I've owned a daycare, I've been in hospice, and now here we are, with the agency. And so talking to people of all different ages and ethnic backgrounds and religions, may not even have a religion, and that's okay too. But the common thing that I've learned that everybody has a lot of times to deal with as it pertains to the client is acceptance. So, yeah, you just need to understand I need a little bit of help. I might need a lot of help, but, don't let your pride, get in the way of accepting and receiving help, support, and that support comes in many different forms. It might come in with helping you getting washed and dressed for the day. So what? Acceptance, because you're accepting that I can't do some of the things that I used to do. So, we always talk about keep that relationship with your PCP, your primary care physician, so that when he recognizes some things and you're talking to him, he'll make the suggestion. So once you get through that part, and when the case manager comes out, we talk about that too. The case manager, once you get on the LTSS program, the case manager comes out and does an assessment. Acceptance clients, acceptance is crucial because they're going to ask you a series of questions. And it's important that you're truthful when you answer those questions. You don't want to answer them based on the how you're feeling that specific day because you may be on your A game, okay, which is great. We love that for you, because you got your mindset going. You're like, I'm not gonna let this, I'm not gonna let this lady or this man, see me down and out. So you're gonna put your best foot forward. I don't know if you're a female, you might put your wig on. I don't know if you're a male, you might have a toupee. I don't even know. But at the end of the day, you want to put your best foot forward because you want them to feel like, yeah, oh yeah, I'm looking at her. She can do this. Oh yeah, he looks like he can do that. But realistically, you may be able to do that at that moment because you woke up feeling pretty good, but what about yesterday? And 2 days before that, what about tomorrow? We know that sometimes people that have arthritis and, aches and pains in their joints when the weather is bad, when it's cold, when it's rainy, you guys are in a lot of pain. You're in discomfort. You can barely move. So, what about those days? So, you don't want to answer the questions based off how you feel that specific day. You want to answer the questions based off how you feel in general. All right. So, yeah, so that's where acceptance comes in. Understanding that you need some additional support, understanding and accepting that you can't do at the time some of the things that you used to do. And guess what? You can get better. You can get back to your baseline. You can get back to being better than you were before. But what does it do? It starts with acceptance. Absolutely, you guys. So those are like some of the healthy boundaries, that I'll be talking about, today. So acceptance is one. And if y'all have a boundary that you want to talk about or something that you thinking, that I may not have shared, put it in the chat. Definitely subscribe to us on YouTube. Like us, on our Facebook page, share, our information. We are a wealth of knowledge, okay? And we want to share that knowledge freely. You know what I mean? With you. We're not here to bottle it all up and only share with the people that, choose to come on our awesome service here in the state of Delaware. Yep, because we're going to be moving down into the third county shortly, y'all. Ow, yes, yes, yes. But yeah, we want to help everybody, So when you get on, if you're hashtag live, also let me know where you're, calling, you're chatting in from today. So let me know the state. Let me know your question. Remember, no question, is a dumb question. So, today our topic is healthy boundaries for the clients in the Medicaid LTSS program. And these are, these tips and things that we give you guys, they're just not for the clients in the LTSS program. They're for clients in general. You may not qualify to be on the LTSS program, but you're still going to run into these challenges. We specify, Medicaid LTSS program because that is who, we as an agency, partner with. Thank you, Newcastle, Delaware, ASTRIA 80. How in the house. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate you. So, yeah, our tips, and the things that we discuss are for everyone. Okay. So you may not be a client, but you may have a family member, that has somebody on the program. Right now, we serve Newcastle and Kent counties in Delaware, but yeah, we're going to be moving into Sussex County shortly. So sign us up, okay? And then what? We're going to be branching out, y'all. We're going to be in your state soon, okay? So if you down with that, hashtag, we want reliable aid in Texas. We want reliable aid in Virginia. Let us know, okay? Because we want to come to a city in an area in a state near you. Because we about helping everybody, okay? We down with taking this on the road, okay? We want to share. We want people to be informed. We want people to know you are not in this alone, okay? And the things that we share, you just may not have even thought of. So again, we give it freely, to you guys. Free indeed. Y'all know I'm a scriptural, I'm a believer. So, I'm gonna throw some scriptural in there. So yeah, but so acceptance. Can we all say that? Acceptance, it is crucial. So once you accept that, yeah, I do need some help, then you need to be attentive. Ooh, that's another A. So now we got acceptance and attentive. Ooh, we got two A's in here. Okay. So, be attentive to what the case manager is saying. Listen to their suggestions. Listen to your caregivers, suggestions. Now, this is where the real boundaries, come in at. Because as I shared yesterday, being healthy boundaries with the caregiver, it's a balancing act, sometimes because you're the client when you're on the clock. You're not mom, you're not dad, you're not granny, you're not auntie or uncle, brother or sister, cousin, BFF. You're the client, and your caregiver has a care plan that they have to work through. So, it's important that you guys, work together. And sometimes that can cause conflict. It can cause anxiety. We don't like that A. That's not a good A. So we're not going to roll with that. But I'm being realistic. I believe in being transparent. You know, it can cause anxiety. Even when you're talking to the case manager, he or she may say something and you like, not. I've been doing it by myself. I'm going to keep doing it by myself. But we want you to remain safe. There's a lot of instances, where when you're listening, because you've accepted, you're being attentive, you can get back to your baseline. You can get back better than what you were, before, just by doing some of the little things, and being okay with, I need some support. So if the case manager is recommending a shower chair, if they're recommending a walker. It's okay. A cane. You may not, or you may be using a cane and, but you're still a little bit unsteady, so we don't want you to fall. We don't want you to end up in the hospital. So, yeah. So if you, may have to graduate from a cane to a walker, it's okay. You're still going to be fly. You still going to look good. All right. When you go out, listen, I wish I had it with me right now. Actually, I do, but it's just not in front of me. I had leg surgery. I had to be a client. And boy, I tell you, they had to break my shin bone and shift my kneecap up. Break my shin bone, shift my kneecap over, and put about 4 or 5 pins and screws in my leg. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Boy, I tell you. Oh, we need reliable aid, Puerto Rico. Send compliance to Puerto Rico to get it started. Hashtag I got you. Compliance in the house, okay? Because y'all, I'm telling you, we got a team of people that is here for everybody, okay? I'm telling you, we here to rock and roll with y'all. No matter the state. We here for y'all, but we just need to know. We need to know that y'all want us there. We want to feel the love. Let's feel that mutual love. You know, but yeah, man, I'm telling you, when the doctor told me I had to have this surgery, it took me about 2 years. So I'm telling y'all these things because I'm speaking from experience. So when I say acceptance, I had to accept it my own self. Girl, you need to stop playing because your leg is jacked. It wasn't my knee, so I didn't need like a knee replacement. He actually told me it was something from birth. I'd never heard of it. He gave me some big old medical scientific word. I can't even tell you what it said, but I know what it meant. And it meant that my kneecap was sitting up too high and too far over. So yeah, they had to break my shin bone and shift my kneecap over. I tried therapy. I tried cortisone shots. I tried gel injections. I tried some more therapy. I'm telling you, y'all, acceptance is a thing. So I'm saying it because I know it. I lived it. I dealt with it. But the pain, yeah, it just wasn't getting any better. I was like, girl, stop kidding yourself. So yeah, accepted it. I called my doctor up and I said, Doc, go on and sign me up. Go on and sign me up. I need this surgery. It was during COVID time. Hashtag live, Ravonzo Brown Sr. Thank you for joining. Holla back, holla back. Woo, woo. So, yeah, I had to accept it. So I called him up. I said, Doc, sign me up for this surgery. And part of the reason while I was struggling with it was because, you know, he was like, you're going to need 24-hour care, for about 2 to 3 weeks. You're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to do that. You're not going to be able to shower. You're not going to be able to get up and walk around. I'm like, what the world? You're going to need a bedside commode. What? I was like, I was ended up being 50 when I had the surgery. And but we have been talking about this on and off for a few years as I'm going back and forth to doctors and getting all of this other stuff done. That didn't ultimately fix the problem. But yeah, y'all, that acceptance is real. And I was like, I'm used to taking care of myself. I'm not used to nobody doing this for me. I live a certain way. I like my house cleaned a certain way. Nobody's going to do it, for me. So these are things that we go through as clients, because I was a client. I wasn't on anybody's program, but at the end of the day, I was going to need a caregiver. I was going to need some help. So that's what I'm getting at. We all, if you need some help, you have to accept that, yeah, I need some help. So, then, and it's funny because, my sister, who I'm here in Pittsburgh, taking care of right now. Now I'm on the other side. I'm on the flip side. I'm a caregiver, and it was funny. She was my caregiver. She was one of my caregivers. And, she was saying, you're just going to have to accept that, they may not, clean your house the way that you want it. And, I don't know, they may not, do this, that, or the third. That was giving me the bad A. It was giving me the anxiety. I said, oh God, no. Mm-mm. And we go through those things. So what? We don't want to accept, that we need the help because, we got other people coming in our homes. If you don't have a family caregiver, now at this point, you're thinking, I got to have a stranger, come into my home. Well, you know what? We make sure that our caregivers that we hire, if it's not a family caregiver, they got to go through the process. They got to get fingerprinted. They got to get the background checks and the PPDs and the physicals and all of that good stuff. So, and we talk about that too in some of our other segments. So if you've missed it, we'll circle back around to it, or, you can watch one of our previous segments, and that's where you would put in the hashtag rebroadcast. But if you're on with me now, hashtag live. If you got a question, put it in the chat. I'm here to answer. Director Ivy is on the scene today. All right. You can always give us a call at 302-689-3240. And one of our knowledgeable staff on the other end will, get your information. If they can't answer the question, they will. And if they can't, they'll get it to the people that can. But yeah, so today's topic is what? Healthy boundaries for the clients in the Medicaid LTSS program. So, getting back to my story, yeah, I was like, Lord Jesus, I got to be a client. I don't even know how I'm going to do this. But, once I accepted it, I let the anxiety go, and things begin to work out, and they'll work out for you too. You just have to develop that relationship with your caregiver. If it's not a family caregiver, then, sometimes it can maybe pose an extra challenge or two, but for the most part, follow the care plan. Let the case manager know the things you really can't do, or the things that, yeah, you need some extra, support with, or things that you could do 3 months ago that when they come back out for their 90-day assessment, or we come back out for our 90-day assessment, that, yeah, you know what? I'm noticing I really can't do that, anymore, or I've been a little bit, more unsteady. So if y'all know me, I always talk about transparency. Transparency is crucial, okay? So you got to be transparent. You got to be honest about what's going on with you, because that is going to help you to get the best care that you need and, most importantly, deserve. Okay? So, yeah, we are just here for you. Medicaid is here for you. The caregivers, the clients, we are here. We want to serve the clients, we want to serve the community, but we can only help solve a problem if we know that one exists, okay? So don't be afraid. That's another negative A. So we had two positive A's. We had acceptance and we had attentiveness. The two negative A's, anxiety, and what did I just say? I don't know. Y'all tell me, because if you're listening, then you heard it. Okay? But yeah, but we don't want any, anxiety. We don't want any of that good stuff. We want you guys to have a good day. Okay? When the caregiver comes out, and they're going over the care plan, another healthy boundary is, hey, gotta let them do what's on the care plan. You can't say, I don't feel like doing that today. Nope, I ain't do that. I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to do that. You know, no, 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 no. Let them help you, because the more they can do around the house, the more you can take your time and your strength and do things personally for you. Give yourself some self care. Self care crucial in anybody's life today. We all need that self care. It comes in different forms, and that's great, But when you're getting that support through the Medicaid LTSS program, let the caregivers, do some of that little fluff stuff. So then, yeah, you can take care of yourself. You know, you can lay back and relax, and put your feet up, and you know, you don't have to critique every little thing it is that they do, because with our agency, guess what we do? We come out. After we come out and have a meeting with you, we meet the caregivers. We let, even if it's a family caregiver, we still show up, okay? Because when you're on the clock, you're the client and the caregiver. You're not the family members. That's one of the healthy boundaries, knowing you're the client and the caregiver. So how they may respond to you off the clock, they can't necessarily respond to you, that way on the clock, because they have a responsibility to you. They have a responsibility to help you, the client, keep your house clean. And I ain't saying that it ain't already clean, but we want to keep it that way. And if it needs some extra tidiness, that's what they there for. Clean living space can make you feel better, okay? Getting a good bath, every day can make you feel better. So allow them to do those things, get pampered, be treated like the kings and the queens, that you are, okay? That you so deserve. Don't be afraid. The other A, anxiety and afraid. We don't like those two negative A's. Don't be afraid to receive the help. All right. Don't be afraid to receive that extra support and, that extra love. Sometimes we used to get clients like, what? They can do that for me? What? I ain't used to that. Yeah, we run it all down. They can do this, 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 that. They can do, at least A through K. I don't know. It might be A through Z, but when you're talking to us, because you've accepted that you needed some support, you're being attentive, you're listening to what it is that we have to say and the questions that we're asking, you're being transparent, and what it is you really can and can't do, then yeah, that helps us create the best care plan for who? You, the client. You, the client, because the client deserves it all. Our goal at Reliable Aid is for everybody to try to have a good experience every day. Now, is that realistic? Nope. Because sometimes, yeah, you, the client, you just may not be feeling good today. You just really can't get up. So again, I was talking about that yesterday, the healthy boundaries, with the caregiver. We have to recognize, okay, if they're saying they really can't do it today, then they can't do it. You got to let them be. You can't force them to get up. I know if it's mom, it's going to be like, look, mom, I need you to get up and get these exercises done today, okay? Because I need you to get back feeling better. I need them legs to get to walking. I need that back to stop hurting. All of those different things that we want, for our loved ones. But we got to do things in decency and in order, okay? Because that is going to help us. Give us a call if you ever have a question, 302-689-3240. We are here to rock and roll, all right? Our email is general at reliableaidinc.org. All right. Yeah. Hashtag live, hashtag rebroadcast. Don't forget to like us and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Facebook. We have Google review page. Let us know. We love that positive. We get so much positive feedback from our Google reviews, because again, we're here for you guys. If you're not in the state of Delaware until we branch out in your area, we might can't physically be there to support you, but we can help you through this process. We always want everybody, and it starts with the client, because the client is the most important part. The client is the reason why we are here today. The client is the reason why we can give your family member a paycheck. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's one of our other things that we talk about. We help financially challenged families to become more financially stable. And you may not need the paycheck, as a caregiver, but hey, do something nice for the client. But at the end of the day, the client is the most important part to us. I know for me, and as the executive director, if the client ain't happy, I ain't happy. And if the client ain't happy, you as the caregiver should not be happy, because sometimes the clients can be combative. Sometimes, they just showing out and y'all just be acting up for no reason, but you don't have to show out like that, So again, maintaining those healthy boundaries. If you feel yourself getting all worked up and stuff, take 5 minutes for yourself, calm things down, let your caregiver know, you know what? I can't do this right now. Give me 10, 15 minutes and let's circle back around to it. There's nothing wrong with that. Because again, that's part of acceptance, realizing what you can and can't do and accepting and realizing your limits. Okay. So, you may have 15 minutes of, range and motion, exercises, maybe, something like this, or, maybe little leg exercises or something. And, you can't get through the whole 15 minutes right now. You may have to break it down 5, 5, and 5, and that's okay, but just talk, you know. Some people feel like, I want to get through it. I want to get through it. I don't want to, especially if it's a family, if you have a family caregiver, the client, typically they don't want to disappoint their family member, and that's another boundary, that you have to tackle. That is a real thing. We want what's best. We don't want to make our kids sad. We don't want to make, our granddaughter who, sacrifices and comes over here morning, noon, and night, to see, my mom, and my mom can't make it happen. No, 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 no. If you do a little bit, and if you do a little bit every day, my partner, Mr. KC, he was just saying to me a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about exercising, because I told y'all about this, this jacked up leg, that I got, and it, and for a while it was doing great, and then it kind of started bothering me again. And he was like, you do squats? And I was like, no. So I was like, that sounds like that's gonna hurt my knee. So he was saying to me, he was like, I don't know, just do two, just do two squats, just do two squats a day for a week. And then I don't know, maybe the next week you'll be able to graduate to four squats, a day, and then the next thing you know, you'll be able to do 15. So look at that. It's the consistency, Now, nope, I have not started it yet, and I believe in transparency. I have been doing some other leg exercises, but you got to get something in. The exercising is important. I bought one of those little machines that, those little QBs and all of those little things that you can do. There's something for everybody, but you have to talk about it, so that we can help you come up with, solutions. I'm going to take a sip of water, right here, y'all. Yeah, y'all know I'm an Eagles girl. Absolutely. Um, yeah, you have to talk about it. And let your caregiver know, because they may not, they're not a family caregiver. Some, even some family caregivers don't live with you, but if they don't live with you, you want to talk about how your night was, whether or not if you had to get up frequently and go to the restroom, if you were restless, maybe you didn't get, a good night's sleep. We want to know all of those things, because we want to be able to capture that sooner rather than later, so that we can help you, so that sometimes when we don't talk about those things, as the client, because we're ashamed, another negative A, we don't want to talk about it. We may not want to talk about bedwetting. It's a reality, guys. It's okay to talk. We a safe space, over here. You can share with us. You can share with your case manager, because they may have suggestions, of things that you can do. It could be something as, stop drinking water after 7 o'clock. We don't even know. It could be a quick fix, but don't be ashamed, don't be afraid, and don't have anxiety, when talking about it. It is okay. We love talking to you guys. We love helping you all. I got a positive A. We are asset. Ow, look at that. We are asset. We want to be an asset, to the clients, because that makes a better you, which makes, especially if you have a family caregiver, now you're pleasing them. It's a win-win for everyone. All right. So let's look at the positive side, versus the negative side. Let's talk about what you can do, build off of that, and the things that you're finding yourself having, some challenges with. Let's openly discuss those and then see what we can do, to fix that, so that you can get better. Now, granted, we're not MDs and we don't have all the answers, but if we can help you, we absolutely will. And more importantly, we want to help you. All right. We are an agency that loves you. We are an agency that is here to support you. I am Executive Director Ivy, and I got your back. All of the office team has your back. Our director, Miss Destiny, her assistant, Miss Milan, our quality coordinators, Miss Karen and Miss Zena, that, come on out, to talk to you about what's going on with you. And which is what I was saying, when we come out and chat with you, be transparent. Let us know what's going on with you. We want to be here, to help you. Our wellness team, Pastor Brown and, our wellness coordinator, Miss Jackie, the phone calls and the visits, we are here. We want to help you, but we can't help you if you don't reach out to us. We can't really, really help you if you're not on service with us. Hmm, I don't know about that. What y'all think about that? But at the end of the day, we're here for everybody. We just want to love on you. We want you to be the best version, of yourselves. And sometimes it just takes us to take an extra step, forward and try to focus on something positive. When I know when I was the client, and I'm sure many of you other clients out there can attest to that. Whew, it was a struggle some days, just talking myself through it, because the mental part, can be just as challenging as the physical part. And, and that's where our wellness team comes in. Oh my goodness. Our wellness team is awesome. I just got, another kudos, regarding, our Pastor Brown. If you're not spiritual, he doesn't have to pray with you. He can just talk to you. It doesn't matter. He talks to people of Muslim faith, of no faith, of Christian faith, and it doesn't matter. Baptist, Methodist, Protestant, it doesn't matter. We just want to talk to you. We just want to let you know that we're here for you. We just want to put a smile on your face. We just want to help you maybe see things from a different perspective, you know? So we have all of these people in place, anxious in a good way, not the negative anxious, anxious in a good way, to help you. So, clients, you just got to give us a call. We focusing on you today, okay? Our topic is healthy boundaries for the clients in the Medicaid LTSS program. Yes, our client is our star. Our client is our challenge. If you desire to be a client with us, give us a call, 302-689-3240. If you sitting there with a family member or you're just sitting there with somebody that helps you out throughout the course of the day and the week, and you're like, whoa, I'd like to be a part of that team. Reliable Aid Inc. Director Ivy over here. Executive. I got to add that to that. We done made some changes. We got some upgrades going on, y'all. Yeah, give us a call. We want to help you get on the program. We ready to come out there and serve you, and be a support and a benefit to you, and, maybe help you get back to the basics. Sometimes just healthy conversation, which is a good thing, that the client and the caregiver should have throughout the course of the day. Healthy conversation. Keep the focus on the client. It's probably something I should have shared with the caregiver yesterday, but that's all right. We'll have another segment about it. But keeping the focus on the client, because sometimes the client starts talking to the caregiver about their day and what happened with them. And the caregiver just starts talking about life. And, next thing you know, the whole conversation and changed. And then the client gets all upset. Because they're like, oh my gosh, you got this going on and you got that going on. I'm telling you, in some of my, former positions, with other organizations, I would see all kinds of stuff, that goes on, but we want to keep the focus on the client, you know. What do you think? Donate. That's a new one. I love it. Boy, I tell you, that Kion Church is something special, y'all. Something special. He too, is a caregiver, and his client, his father, sometimes we got to separate the two, we got to be like, it can't be, necessarily what's best for Pop, because we want everything, that's best for Pop, but, realistically, sometimes Pop just can't do things, we got to understand that, and accept that. So acceptance is not even just for the client, it's for the caregiver, as well, and understanding, compassion, you know, caring, consideration, all of those things take part, when you're being a client and or a caregiver, because sometimes the clients, boy, their mouths can get sassy, okay? Woo! And my mom, when I was, taking care of her, she was just sweet. I mean, just downright sweet. Never drank, never smoked, and cussed, went to church, did what she was supposed to do. Everybody makes mistakes, but overall, just sweet. So when I found out, she had that stage 4 ovarian cancer, I was like, what the foolery? You know, and my mom, being a client, she would always ask me what I wanted. And I'd be like, nope, I got to keep the focus on you. Caregivers, you have to keep the focus on the client. It's about what they want, what's in their best interest, because physically, mentally, emotionally, sometimes all of those emotions go together, and in order to have success, you know, they got to be good in all of those areas, because when they put too much emphasis in one area, and then really fall short in the other area, then it can have, an adverse effect. That's another negative A. We don't want that, We want the affirmations. We want the good, we want the good A's, you know. And so yeah, it's important. But clients, you have to talk. You have to talk to your caregivers. You have to talk to your case managers. You have to talk to the quality coordinators. Look at that. All them C's. Now we got some C's. We got caregivers, case managers, coordinators. Give us a call. If you ain't sure who to talk to us, okay? Talk to Reliable Aid, 302-689-3240. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to talk to you, see how it is, we can help you. You know, we help financially challenged family members to become paid caregivers through the long-term care Medicaid program. So yeah, everybody gets some stability. We love that. We love that for you guys. I'm sure you guys would love that. Being a client, being a caregiver is challenging, mentally, physically, financially. When you need things now that you didn't need then, it's okay though. You just got to talk. Just have to talk. Y'all quiet out there today. I ain't really got no questions, but it's okay. Because guess what? I love to talk, And I know if you're not watching it now, you'll watch it later and be like, oh, I hope I gave you some good tips today on some healthy boundaries being a client, because yeah, there are challenges. One of the other things, I know I found in my own personal, walk being a client, and needing some help, it's just listening, tuning out that outside interference. Everybody has something they want to say, but everybody ain't in it to play. Okay. That's all I'm saying. which means, you may have everybody, wanting to say something about your care, dictate your care, how it should be done, but they ain't the ones actually doing it. So minimize that. Let them know I'm good. I appreciate it, but it's okay. We got this. Talk to the right people. Because sometimes even that can cloud your mind. It can cloud your judgment. It can interfere with how you interact with your caregiver throughout the course of the day and the week, you know? And we don't want the enemy coming in and trying to, steal nobody's joy. Again, I'm a believer, so I'm gonna throw some scripture in there. And the word says that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But what? We serve a God that can do anything but fail. So what? Yeah, y'all. Talk to the right people. Talk to people that want to give you healthy, suggestions. Talk to people that want to have you help you to see and have a better quality, of life. Not, down putting your caregiver and, talking about what they ain't doing and what they should be doing and how they should be doing it. Well, if they felt like that, then maybe they should be your caregiver. I'm just saying, y'all know I believe in keeping it real, but try to minimize, that extra chatter because, yeah, it creates tension, with you and your caregiver throughout the course of the day. And we don't want that because that's not healthy, and we want you guys to have a healthy day. And your emotional and physical well-being, they play a part, with each other because when you're stressing a lot, when you're just unhappy, because you're in a lot of pain, stress brings on so many other things. We know that, what? Stress, and that anxiety. It brings on, high blood pressure, brings on diabetes, it brings on strokes, it brings on heart attacks, it brings on cancer, it brings on a lot. We could probably have a whole nother segment on that, okay? But, we want to try to minimize those things, so don't just talk to anybody. Talk to the people, that have your best interests at heart. Like reliable aid. Reliable aid has your best interests at heart. And if you're not sure, if you want to fence about it, then you need to do what? Give us a call at 302-689-3240, and we can show you hands on how much love we have for you, how much care and concern we have for you, how we want you to be the best person that you can be, receive the best care that you can, you know, and it all just starts with a phone call, you know. Call us. We'll walk you through the progress, or excuse me, through the process, and we'll let you know the progress. Hey, how about that? Because we don't want it to be time consuming for you, because sometimes that turns people off. I don't have time for that. These people kept me on hold. They're not getting back to me. We know all organizations have their challenges, especially state funded ones, because sometimes there's a shortage. They got other things going on, people playing, multiple roles. So, my partner KC, he got some connections, y'all. That's why I call him the playmaker. He's got some connections, that can help you get through that, with less frustration. Clients out there, future clients out there, yeah, give us a call. Just give us some stuff high level. We'll just get a few pieces of information for you. If you're already in the Medicaid program, that is even easier. You really, it doesn't take as much, but if you're not in the Medicaid program at all, we can get you started to see if you qualify, to be in a program. And then if so, get you moving along, get your application moving along. So, we can get somebody in there if you don't already have somebody in mind. Yeah, we want to get somebody in there to help get you the support that you need sooner rather than later. Okay. So that's where we go back to acceptance, accepting, understanding that you need some extra help, and it's okay. We ain't judging. This is a judgment free zone, people. We just want to help you. And why not? You've been working all your life, you've been doing things, you've been struggling. Come on, clients. Let's lay back and put your feet up and get pampered. Let somebody just love on you. Let somebody do all of those things. Yeah, you can still maintain your activities of daily living and maintain your independence, doing something that you want to do. Not something that you feel like you have to do, because you don't have anybody else to do it for you. Yes, There are people out there that want to do it for you, that want to help you do it together. It doesn't have to be we just let the caregiver do it. Yeah, we can go in the kitchen and we can wash the dishes together. One wash, one dry, and then we put away. We can vacuum, we can dust together. You know, we'll help you, get a shower. We'll just get some of those maybe hard to reach places. We get you a shower chair, you can just relax. We want you to relax because when you can do those things, clients, then yeah, you know, life becomes a little bit less stressful, because you don't feel like you're in such a press, to do all of these things. I have to do this, I have to do that, or feeling like you can't trust, anybody, to do those things with you. So, if you're not sure if you're eligible for the program, if you do have Medicaid and not sure if you're in the long-term care portion of the Medicaid, what you need to do, you need to give us a call at 302-689-3240. We are happy to get a few pieces of information from you, and get in touch with Medicaid, work our magic in the backdrop, and see how we can help you get rocking and rolling. Absolutely, absolutely. That is our goal. So, I hope that I helped somebody out there, today. Again, like us, subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us. We want to hear from you guys. We want to know what you're thinking. We want to know the topics that you want us to talk about. Anything pertaining to Medicaid, just give us the topic. We'll figure out how to tie it in, but we just want to hear from you guys. We want to know what you think. I want to share with y'all. I shared with you yesterday, my affirmation, and my word of the day, that's important. We need everybody. These affirmations are crucial. One little word, one little kind word can change the trajectory of a person's day. It can put a smile on their face. That's another thing I used to always say, when I was in hospice world. I used to go out and visit nursing homes and all of that good stuff, seeing current clients, seeing potentially future clients. But I always felt like if I could put a smile on at least one person's face, that I did something good that day, you know? So yeah, and then it went from one to two, and then it went from two to five, but it's baby steps. Rome wasn't built in a day, but we can do better together, you know? So clients, I hope y'all listening to me out there today. Today's you know, Wisdom Wednesday, a reminder to seek the lessons in each day. Every experience has something to teach us. Every challenge offers an opportunity for growth. When we open our minds and hearts to the wisdom around us, what? We cultivate understanding, resilience, and peace. Woo wee! Absolutely. I hope y'all got that today. I hope what I shared with you all, you got something out of it. If you need any clarification, if you want a better explanation, another explanation, I am happy to share that with you. You just need to give us a call. Tell them you need to speak to Executive Director Ivy. I'm down with y'all, okay? I will be back prayerfully tomorrow. You know, um, I will be relieved of my caregiving responsibilities here today. I do have to fly back to Delaware tomorrow. I am presenting at a women's empowerment conference. These next 4 days, and the kickoff is tomorrow. But yeah, we want to hear from you. I want to hear from you. Our team wants to hear from you. Give us a call, 302-689-3240. I do hope that something that I said made a difference in the life of one person out there today, put a smile on somebody's face. But always remember, all is well and God is good. You guys stay safe and blessed, and I'll see you soon. Peace.